Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Really do appreciate your time. Much love to everybody. Come on in. I know that I didn't put a notification out, so trying to wait for a few minutes to allow people to come on in. This is live right now. We're about as live can be on a Thursday night, January 4th of 2024. And hope everybody's enjoying their new year so far. Hope everybody is, getting started with those New Year's resolutions, no matter, what they are, rather it's working out, rather it's eating right, rather it's being a better person overall. It's extremely important, to create these New Year's resolutions. And, it's great to, have a new year because it symbolizes a fresh start. And hopefully everybody's getting off to a really good start. But on this edition of the State of the Saints podcast, we're going to be talking about Saints General Manager Mickey Loomis. We're going to be talking about Mickey Loomis throughout the show because he had his weekly press conference or his weekly spot on WWL. He talked a little bit about some of the things that we talked about here, and so many other Saints podcasters and reporters on their respective platforms have talked about as well, which is the future of this franchise and what is the general manager's thinking as, the Saints, move forward, rather it's at the end of week number 18, if things don't align for them as far as the playoffs, where do the Saints stand? So we're going to be talking about that. Shouts out to everybody in the chat right now. We got 54 people just filed in, so I'm asking those 54 to please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're new to the channel. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Ain't going to waste nobody time here. I think enough time has passed. I think I stalled long enough. Saints General Manager Mickey Loomis spoke on WWL. He's been doing that throughout the season. And to be honest with you, every time Mickey Loomis speaks, it seems like everybody always seems to kind of be up in arms about something that he said. Rather it's, I guess it's lackadaisical approach. That sounds like Zion Williamson. Lackadaisical approach, or I don't know, some of y'all may not know what I'm talking about, but just go look up Zion Williamson lackadaisical, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, General Manager Mickey Loomis, he always seems to be the topic of conversation every single time he speaks on WWL. And this time was no exception. And we'll go ahead and start with the elephant in the room. And it had to do with Saints quarterback Derek Carr. And of course, the question was about Derek Carr, his performance throughout the season, and what has General Manager Mickey Loomis saw in Derek Carr this season.
Look, I think overall Derek's done some really good things this season. And if you look at some of the areas, his rating, his efficiency, there's a lot of really good things that we've done. There's some things that he hasn't done well. And, how he feels each week. Obviously, he had a shoulder injury, early in the season, and that there's no question that bothered him. We didn't handle pressure very well earlier in the season. And I think, in the last 4 or 5 games in particular, our offensive line and our protection has been better. So there's all these variables, all these elements that contribute to the quarterback play. And look, we all look at the quarterback and we look at the head coach, and that's where we want to point blame and oftentimes give credit, and yet there's just so much more to it than that. But what you said is correct. Derek has had a great game against Tampa. It was really efficient. There still was some meat left on the bone. There's still opportunities that were to be had that maybe would have put that game even further out of reach. And we've had a few things like that. I think this season has been a tale of we've had quarters and halves and parts of games where you can see what we can be, but it's hard to point to a lot of games and say from beginning to end, this is what we are. And that's not unusual. I mean, this is Derek's first year with us. And if we went back to 2006 and looked at Brees' first season or two with us, you wouldn't say, wow, that guy's going to the Hall of Fame.
All right, so there you have it. That was his comments on Derek Carr. He talked about some of the up and down play, which we all talked about. He talked about him playing pretty well, which we talked about. There were a few games that Derek Carr played pretty well throughout the season. Look, I know that a lot of Saints fans aren't fans of Derek Carr as much as others. Some Saints fans like Derek Carr, but he does leave a lot to be desired, and that's a fair question for Jeff Nowak and Steve Geller to ask. But I like to answer some of the things that Mickey Loomis said. I know that we want to criticize everything that he said. We want him to, go on WWL and talk about how terrible it is and how disappointing it is. But you're not going to get that from anybody, not even just Mickey Loomis. You're not going to get that from anybody that is trying to keep their job, or or somebody that's trying to run an organization. You're not going to do that. Look, I think it was fair for him to say, but why I disagree with Mickey Loomis is this: the fact of using Drew Brees as an example for Derek Carr. Here's the difference, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not telling some of you something that you don't already know. Derek Carr, if I'm not mistaken, is about 32 years old, right? Drew Brees came to the New Orleans Saints, I want to say, when he was around 27 years old. I think Drew Brees was maybe in his 5th or 6th season. Derek Carr is in his 10th season, right? So what you have is a guy who, number one, when it comes to Drew Brees, he had a situation where the then San Diego Chargers, really wasn't fully committed to him. That was the reason why they drafted Phillip Rivers. And Drew Brees, honestly, was making it hard for San Diego to pull the trigger, right? Because Drew Brees was playing so well. As a matter of fact, Drew Brees, the year where he ended up tearing his rotator cuff, he was going to the Pro Bowl. I mean, he was having an outstanding season. But it seemed like fate had, other plans for Drew Brees. So fate kind of handled that for the San Diego Chargers. Could you imagine if Drew Brees would have never gotten hurt and, they would have moved on from him and, Drew Brees ended up becoming what he is today and how he's looked at. But, Drew Brees was 27 years old. Derek Carr is 32 years old. He's in his 10th season. It's not like you're dealing with a young guy here, that you like, if I just take a running game or I just take a defense. This is a guy that should understand what his role is as a quarterback in the league. And when you look at quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford, who gets traded from the Detroit Lions to the Los Angeles Rams, and they find success. You look at Tom Brady, which I look at it as a completely different entity. He comes from New England and goes to Tampa, and in his first year, he wins the Super Bowl. When you start looking at seasoned veterans coming in, you expect for them to play at a high level. And if a team is kind of middle of the pack because of their veteran leadership and because of their knowledge, that is supposed to help that team get over the hump. But we're seeing mistakes by Derek Carr that you would see from a guy that would be in their 4th or 5th year in the league. And maybe if he was, we would probably have a level of understanding, probably a little bit better than a guy that's been here for 10 seasons. Another thing that I disagree when it comes to Mickey Loomis is the fact that, I understand what he's trying to say here. He's trying to protect his investment. Nobody wants to say I made a mistake or I wasted money or anything like that. But here's the reality. Drew Brees in his first season as the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints took the New Orleans Saints to a place they'd never been. And that was the NFC Championship game against the Chicago Bears. Now, we all know how that turned out. The Saints did not beat the Chicago Bears, but the New Orleans Saints were the number 2 seed in the NFC that year. Drew Brees was a first-team All-Pro that year. Drew Brees was the NFL passing leader that year. So for him to say that Drew Brees wasn't on a trajectory, or people weren't looking at Drew Brees like he can be a potential Hall of Famer, the only reason why you wouldn't be doing that is because of what he did in San Diego. But if you were looking at Drew Brees from a Saints standpoint and him coming to the New Orleans Saints in 2006, you would say that the Saints made a really good investment in Drew Brees based on his performance. When you look at Derek Carr in his first year, you're scratching your head and you're wondering, did the New Orleans Saints make the right decision? Now, here's the difference. I heard someone say, well, in 2007 and in 2008, the New Orleans Saints did not make the playoffs. That is true. But if you look at Drew Brees' stats, everything about Drew Brees was high performance. They wasn't losing games because of Drew Brees. They were losing games because their defense wasn't very good. Drew Brees was still putting up astronomical numbers. He still had a good touchdown to interception ratio with a high completion percentage. So the fact that Drew Brees came through the door and brought the Saints to a place that they never been, that automatically gave people a Zen-type patience towards him. And also, you can use the same type of theory when it came to Sean Payton. Why is it that everybody's so quick to not jump on Sean Payton after those second and third seasons where the Saints didn't make the playoffs? Well, once again, it's because Drew Brees and Sean Payton were responsible in their first season bringing the New Orleans Saints to the apex of their entire franchise, right? I mean, the NFC Championship game. So people felt like they had the right pieces in place. But when you have a 10-year veteran coming through the door that's giving you up and down play, it's going to have people scratching their heads and wondering to themselves, did the Saints make the right decision? Once again, I'm not mad at Mickey Loomis for, in protecting his investment. He should. But you have to understand that what you're saying is you're comparing him to a guy that brought your franchise to its highest point. So that wasn't a really good example. When you are a 10-year veteran, once again, you are expected to play at a high level. You're expected to play at a level that everybody can look at and be like, you know what? This is where it needs to be. So when I look at that, I apologize, folks. It's like I'm buffering a little bit. I apologize for that. I'm trying to turn down the resolution a little bit. Maybe that'll help. I'm trying to turn down the resolution a little bit. I apologize for that, folks. There we go. All right. Yeah. Got to move my hands a little bit. All right. But anyway, you're comparing him to, where, Drew Brees took the Saints to the NFC Championship game. When you're a 10-year veteran, you are expected to play better than what Derek Carr has been playing. If you are what you say that you are, and it just seemed like, he hasn't been, just that. But I will agree with something that he said, right? I mean, I don't know if I had it in a clip, but he did say, it may take some time in order for him to be able to get acclimated into the system. It's going to take some time. I can understand that, right? But at the same time, when you've been in the NFL as long as Derek Carr has, if you are as good as everyone is saying that you are, there should be some room for improvement, but it should be a point where people are saying that this team is good because of your performance and how you're playing. You're starting to see that a little bit in Derek Carr as of late, but at the beginning of the season, it's been well within people's rights to criticize this guy as far as what he's doing as a quarterback. But Mickey Loomis also talked a little bit more about a few things. He talked a little bit about evaluating the coaching staff and some of the things going on throughout the season.
I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I don't know that I put that much stock into it because, look, your division opponents better than anyone else because you're playing them twice a year. But I think too often we put too much stock in. Well, I don't know that we put too much stock in it, but I think that most of the people that I hear in the media that are evaluating coaches aren't really qualified to do that because they don't know what's being coached. They don't know what's being told during the week. And there's a difference between what they're being told and what's being executed sometimes. So there's some truth to what, to your comment, but I don't think there's as much, I don't put as much stock into it as you might.
So this was a question that Jeff gave to Mickey or asked Mickey in regards to, the criticism from fans, criticism from, reporters. And of course, Mickey Loomis took that and, he kind of attacked the media and people saying that they don't understand what's going on. Look, I hate when people do these type of things, like, because they feel threatened or they get upset that people are questioning their decisions. All of a sudden, they just just chunk it up to, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Look, you don't have to understand the ebbs, well, not the ebbs and flows, but you don't have to understand the ins and outs of running an organization to know that things aren't working the way that they should. Things aren't performing the way that they should. And he's saying that he don't listen to those type of people because they don't know what they're talking about. Well, people can make an argument and saying that maybe you don't know what you're doing. The fact that you actually hired a guy that was 8-28 as a head coach, and he hasn't given you what you think that he should, right? I mean, and also something that he said that really kind of bothered me. He was saying that people don't understand what's going on. There are things that the coaches are telling these players and they're not being executed. Well, the question is, why isn't your coaches trying to put these guys in a position or making it simplistic to a point where these guys can indeed execute? You have to wonder to yourself, well, are the coaches putting these guys in the right position to succeed? There's been more times than not, and I think we all can agree with this, that the Saints have been outcoached. And it's not because these guys aren't executing, it's the fact that the game plan is trash. We talked about this all season long about the offense and the lack of innovation and and how they're executing and how simplistic and how old-fashioned that it is, and it's not really working. But instead of the Saints trying to tweak it a little bit, instead of the Saints trying to adjust it a little bit, they decided to just continue to roll out there with the same old song and dance. And I just take offense to someone getting mad because people have standards. Like what Mickey Loomis seems at times, it seems like he gets upset when people get upset for having standards. There was a standard that he set by bringing in Drew Brees and Sean Payton and showing Saints fans what winning looks like, what consistency looks like. The Saints didn't make the Saints didn't make the playoffs through all the time, but they were always prepared. Like, you rarely ever seen the Saints get blown out. You rarely ever seen a game where the New Orleans Saints just seemed like they just didn't have a plan when Drew Brees and Sean Payton were, at the helm here. But now it just looks like every time Dennis Allen goes up against competent coaches, he gets outcoached. So it's only so many times you can sit up here and start looking at the players and say, oh, it's not the coaches. Dennis Allen came into this situation as a coach that hasn't won anything, a guy who had something to prove. And, it was a prove it deal. It's no different. It's no different than a player who has promise but often gets hurt. Of course, what I'm saying, you got to give him a shot, take a flyer on him, but you're going to have a very short leash on that particular player. And I feel like you need to have a short leash on the coach. I feel like this. If you have to squint an eye or you got to adjust your head or you got to kind of measure it a little bit to see, or if it looks like a coach or it looks like a quarterback or it looks like offensive lineman, probably not, right? I feel like if it doesn't pass the eye test, it's probably not it. And I just think that what Mickey Loomis has to be careful in doing is trying to make this guy something that he's not. You can give this guy opportunity after opportunity and he squanders it, and you're setting your team back further and further. So that is something that I just feel like he needs to take into consideration. And also, he says that most people that, talk about the team aren't qualified. Well, look, once again, I don't understand the ins and outs of running an operation, but I can tell you this. I know something about football. I've been watching football my entire life. I understand the concepts of football. It is what it is. And so many people, they do have talking heads that just try to do things for shock value. But there are individuals that know what good coaching looks like. For example, I often use the example of Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley coaching the Los Angeles Chargers. Last year, Brandon Staley showed you that he wasn't really good. It was a mixed bag, kind of similar to what it was with Dennis Allen. They get in close games and they end up losing, not really living up to their potential. They decided to bring him back, and then by the end of the season, he's fired, right? But everybody thought that he was going to get fired last year. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And right now, it just seems like instead of you blaming the media, instead of you blaming the fans, instead of you trying to look down on them and saying that they don't know what they're talking about, but I do, maybe you need to look and investigate and really take a look at this and put your pride to the side, because it's like I said, it's hard to put our pride to the side when we made these decisions, right? It's so hard for us to say I was wrong or I made a mistake, right? It's hard for us to do that. So instead of you leading with pride, maybe you need to really just take a look at it and see that this thing isn't working out. And when you do that, then I think that you'll put your team in the best position to succeed. I got a few more clips I got to play, but in the meantime, I want to not play, but read some of your comments in regards to this. Thank you all so much for being here. Got 112 people watching this right now. I ask that you hit the like button. We'll start with, let's scroll up. I'll go up a little bit more. Let's start with Damien. Damien says, facts, TJ. If it wasn't for Brees those years, the Saints would have always been in spots for top 5 picks. I mean, that's the truth, Damien. If Drew Brees wasn't who he was, then they definitely would be picking in the top 5. I definitely agree with you on that. Drew Brees was a special quarterback in his time. And, I just think that comparing him and how he started with the New Orleans Saints to Derek Carr is like apples and oranges. Even though I understand what he's getting at, you got to protect your investment. We all know Sean Payton was calling the shots. I mean, yeah, Sean Payton was calling the shots. And, I mean, they can't dispute that either, I mean, Mickey Loomis even said, like, once Sean Payton decided to lead the team and go to television that first year, he, decided to step down. He said, Sean Payton was so instrumental in everything. Sean Payton is instrumental with the black helmets that the Saints wear right now. The towels, the type of material the towel was inside of the Superdome. He was instrumental in every single thing. So, and we all know how meticulous he was about uniforms and cleats and all that other stuff. So, he was extremely hands-on about everything. So, that he played a huge role in the New Orleans Saints and what they were doing. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Saints would actually be in first place had they not allowed Bucks scored those late 13 points. The tiebreaker is based on the best win percentage in common games, meaning the division only. Yeah, I think that when you say winning percentage, yeah, it has something to do with that and NFC opponents. Like beating, how many NFC opponents have you beaten on top of your divisional record, right? Losing to the AFC is not that bad if you're an NFC team. And an AFC team losing to the NFC is not that bad because it's mostly about conference positioning. Like the Saints can't jump Minnesota because they lost to Minnesota. They can't jump Green Bay because they lost to Green Bay. And then also when it comes to Seattle has a better NFC overall record than the New Orleans Saints do. So they need them to lose in order for them to catapult them. So yeah, it really matters. Those NFC games really matter. Like when you see a team, even if they're not in a division, but they're in your conference and you lose to them, that's man, that really, really hurts. That's why, a couple years back when the Saints lost that overtime game to the Giants And if they would have won that game, they probably would have been in the playoffs. So those games matter, man. Sean Payton was calling all the shots. A lot is at stake on Sunday. Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. A lot of things are at stake. I feel like not only just playoff positioning, but I feel like coaching as well. If the Saints go out there with the playoffs on the line and they lose to the Atlanta Falcons, to me, I don't know how Dennis Allen can survive that, to be honest with you, because look, your team needs to be prepared, right? You need to win this football game. This is a must win. You have to win this game in order for you to make the postseason. And it's not like one of those situations how it was with Matt LaFleur. How Matt LaFleur, lost to the Detroit Lions in a winning in situation in the very last game last season. That's where the classic soundbite from Jamal Williams is all dog came out, right? It's not like one of those situations because Matt LaFleur went to back-to-back NFC championship games. This is a guy who would miss the playoffs for the second consecutive year as a head coach. And, I'm not saying that by beating the Falcons is the only way you're going to make the postseason, but you can't make the postseason if you don't win this game against the Atlanta Falcons. So, excuse me, there's a lot on the line here. Derek Carr balled out when down 3 scores on, on the Rams, I guess, does just fine to justify Gale's passing interest in winning versus profiting. Look, I don't know if that's the case or not. I just think that Gale Benson, I hate to say it like this, but I don't even really look at Gale Benson when it comes to like decision making. And maybe I should, but I don't. I just think that she's like one of those owners that delegates the work, understands that there's things that she don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and she ain't trying to know. So I'm looking at mostly like, Mickey Loomis when it comes to football operations. Like, I don't think she's sitting up there talking about X's and O's. And, maybe there's a concern like when the Superdome is empty or stuff like that, but I don't think that Gale Benson is sitting up there looking at social media, worrying about what people are saying. I'm pretty sure she probably has a team that kind of keep her privy to what's going on and the pulse of the fan base and stuff like that. Kind of like a politician, right? Politician has a team and they talk about their approval ratings and what you need to do and what people are saying about. I feel like that, but I think all in all, I think she leaves the football stuff to the football guys. And I think mostly it's just Mickey Loomis, the one that's really out there. We really just need to be looking at. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and then we'll get back into, the sound bites. I got 2 more to play. Says, let me see. Meaning Saints and Bucks can finish 9-8, but Saints need to blow out the Falcons and have the Bucks win a close game. No, that's definitely not how it works. It's not the BCS. This is the BCS we talking about here. Back in the day when the BCS was out, you get style points about how you beat teams and all that kind of stuff. No, if the Saints beat the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Carolina Panthers, the Saints will not win the division. Now, there's a chance they can still make the playoffs. They need Chicago to beat Green Bay and they need the Cardinals to beat Seattle. But that would completely, that they will no longer be able to win the NFC South. But they can win, they can get the 7th spot inside of the playoffs. Now, if any one of those teams beat, like let's just say if Green Bay beat Chicago and the Cardinals beat Seattle, the Saints still are eliminated. So, but none of those things matter unless you beat the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, it's just that plain and simple. I mean, you got to win those games. You got to win them. Let's see. Doesn't matter what Mickey says on WWL. His legacy, one way or another, will be determined in the next 2 years. I predicted it. Let me see. I predicted it ended in epic failure. Look, empathy. I don't know if it'll. I don't think it'll define his legacy. His legacy is defined by hiring a coach that was the greatest coach in New Orleans Saints history. That is his legacy. Him being responsible for bringing in the greatest quarterback in New Orleans Saints history. Now, look, that's like saying Bill Belichick these last couple of years, like his legacy is is trash, right? Because the New England Patriots are like one of the worst teams in football right now. I mean, no. Like you got to take account of all them championships he won. You can talk about who the quarterback was and all that, but he still was the head coach. And in my opinion, Bill Belichick is still the greatest head coach of my lifetime. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that he is really that good. So I'm not saying, like, I think that we got to be very, very careful of recency bias, right? I mean, what's in front of us right now? I mean, I don't like the direction that Mickey Loomis is going in. And I do think that some of the things that I'm alluding to is the reason why he feels the way that he does right now. And he carries himself with the confidence or arrogance, depends on how you want to look at it. I think that it plays a role. But, I'm not going to say that it tarnishes legacy or it was a failure. It wasn't a failure because you still have to take into account this guy has been a general manager since 2002. And he's responsible for bringing the two most important people to in the history of the New Orleans Saints franchise to this team. 3 if you want to count Cam Jordan. So I mean, and so I can't say that. I mean, he's having a bad outing as of late, in my opinion. But let's not get too drastic here. I mean, Mickey Loomis still deserves some credit for bringing in Sean Payton. Now I will say that by him bringing him in, it can join his legacy. And you can ask the question like, how instrumental was Sean Payton to, doing the things that made Mickey Loomis look good, but at the end of the day, he still can join to them. So you got to give him some credit. But Mickey Loomis talked to WWL once again. For those that tuned in, this is where we're going throughout the show. We're going to be talking about the interview with Mickey Loomis on WWL. We played a few sound bites. We played the one about Derek Carr. We played the one about evaluating, and understanding the criticism of fans and media alike. But this one right here is talking about making the decisions after the season. I mean, that's something that we've been talking about here, and everybody's been talking about. What are the Saints going to do in the offseason? What are they going to do to try to improve this team going into 2024 so the Saints can get back to being one of those successful teams in the NFC and in the NFL? And this is what Mickey Loomis said about evaluating after the season.
I would say that most of that process comes after the season. I don't like to make evaluations in season because, you're dealing with the emotion of winning and losing each week, and you're dealing with the issues that come up on a daily basis to prepare for the next game. But that'll be a process we go through, and I go through when the season's over. I certainly have a few thoughts and a few things that I think we need to have a discussion about, but that'll all come after the season's over, and hopefully the season won't be over after Sunday.
So that right there, look, I agree once again with what Mickey Loomis said. I feel like people took like maybe one snippet of this entire interview and just kind of blew it out of proportion here. Like there were some things that I have to say I agree with, I look, I get it, right? As a fan, when we're watching this stuff, we're angry, right? I mean, I'm one of those individuals. I'm watching this and I'm getting upset. I'm tweeting in real time, especially that Detroit Lions game. I'm like, man, just blow the whole thing up. But I can understand his even kill approach and trying to evaluate things at the end of the season, right? And he even said that there are some things that he feel like he needs some questions answered. So with that, I can say that he understands that there are some things going on within the organization, within his coaching staff that needs to be addressed. Now, he didn't go into what those things actually are, but to me, I just feel like it sounds to me like it's more than likely it's going to be some coaching changes. Probably not the coaching change that we all want, but there's probably going to be some coaching changes. Now, you don't want to you make decisions based on emotion. I agree with that. But I just feel like there's a large enough sample size of Dennis Allen for you to understand that it's not going to really work out. Like it's not. It's like I'm a firm believer in giving guys opportunities. I'll give you an example. There was this lady, and God rest her soul, man. She passed away in the tragic tornado in Rolling Fork. But when I first became a store manager, before I became a radio personality and doing this, I was a store manager out in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. And, I got the job, and the first couple of weeks, I was just evaluating the people that I had because I needed to put together a management team. I mean, everybody kind of just walked out. You know how it is when stores are struggling, you got to put together a new team. And I'm just looking, I'm trying to figure out, who I can probably hire from within, who I can, put a part and make a part of my management team. And, I'm looking at people, and this lady, you know what I'm saying? I always seen her. She was always working hard. I mean, anything I asked her to do, she does it. She would go above and beyond. And I remember I asked one of the workers that worked there, about her. And she said, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'm like, you sure? And I started like, really evaluating. I had to make a gut decision. And I ended up, promoting this lady. And when I left and moved to South Carolina, where I'm at right now, she took over the store I was at. So, sometimes like when you know what I'm saying, when you're evaluating, you don't want to do it based on emotion, right? That person's emotion and the way that they felt about him could have caused me to make a mistake and just look past this lady and not look at her potential, right? But, I was able to, look past that and give her an opportunity, and he hit out the park. Now, there are some cases where that doesn't happen. But I just feel like when you're evaluating this guy, right? Last year, it was a lot of up and down. This year is a lot of up and down. And now it just seems like what you're trying to do is you're trying to convince yourself that this guy is the answer. And I just feel like it's just not going to happen. Like even if Dennis Allen goes out here next season, if the Saints fire Pete Carmichael and they bring in an offensive coordinator, and that offensive coordinator has an offensive game plan, and the Saints are averaging 30 points a game, and Dennis Allen's defense is playing well, and the Saints make the playoffs, and maybe they make a little run in it and make it interesting, right? Let's just say, for example, that offensive coordinator gets a head coaching job, and they bring somebody else in, and maybe they're on the level of a Pete Carmichael. Then you're right back to square one. This isn't a situation where I feel like, if you just bring in an offensive coordinator, the Saints are going to get back to their winning ways. What I see when it comes to Dennis Allen is not the fact that the Saints can't play defense. They can. It's not the fact that I feel like the Saints don't have the talent. They do. I just feel like when it comes to coaching, you got to be able to understand really like situational football and how to be able to make those adjustments throughout the game. And I just feel like you kind of know what the New Orleans Saints and what type of day they're going to have based on how they come out. It rarely ever changes. It rarely ever wavers. Like, think about this. If the Saints start off red hot and they're dominating, you know that that's pretty much going to be the game for the rest of the game. If the New Orleans Saints come out there stale as 48-hour chips that's been open, they're going to lose the football game. How many games have you seen from Dennis Allen that you've seen the Saints facilitate a comeback? I'm just saying, how many times have you seen the New Orleans Saints, like, get down? I can only think of maybe one game, maybe, where the Saints were down by a couple touchdowns and they came back and won the game, and that was against the Colts. That was the only game. Other than that, like, you automatically know what type of game is going to be for the New Orleans Saints. I challenge anybody to tell me I'm wrong. If, like, when they played Tampa and the New Orleans Saints came out there on the opening drive and they scored a touchdown, and I seen 3 and out, I said, excuse me, I said the Saints are going to win this football game. I said they're going to win this football game. Like, we know it. If the Saints go out there and they play stale, we know that they're going to lose. It's just that simple. And I feel like that's the indictment. And what you're doing is you're basically trying to convince yourself that this dude is the answer, and he's not. So I feel like no matter what type of place, or what type of position you put him in, it's not going to be sustainable success. It's nothing against Dennis Allen. Like, I don't know Dennis Allen, but all I know is what Dennis Allen has shown me. All we know is what Dennis Allen has shown us. And what they're showing us is he's inconsistent as a head coach. There's no reason why this New Orleans Saints team this season should be 8-8. They're like, as the NFC, to me, in my opinion, for the exception of the 49ers and the Eagles before they just started to lose their freaking mind and just fall off and sprinkle some cowboy in there. Everybody else is about as average as a C+. If the New Orleans Saints had adequate coaching, if they had a guy that can come up with a game plan consistently, put Mike Tomlin with the New Orleans Saints, they got 11 wins. Put John Harbaugh with the Saints, they got 11 wins at least. You put, I don't know, man. You can probably put, one of the most, you probably put Sean McDermott here, and the Saints will have about 10 or 11 wins. The fact is, it all comes down to coaching. And you got to be able to put your team in the best position to succeed, and he hasn't. And he hasn't, man. So that's just the way that I look at it. Let's see, TJ, get yourself some water and a peppermint. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm still like getting over this cold, man. Y'all know the last thing that always goes away is that cough, man. It always. And then now it's like if I project too high a little bit, then all of a sudden, like I just start coughing. But I apologize for coughing in the mic. I apologize for coughing in the mic, man. But thank you for that, Eric. But yeah, let's see. The net point tiebreaker is number 9. You have go through 1 through 8 before you go through 9. That's why a coin toss is number 12. I don't know exactly what we're talking about there. The Falcons game in 2023 was the other game they made a comeback in. That other game I can think of. Atlanta Falcon game. I don't even remember that game. Maybe that was like the last. I think maybe it was the last game of the season or something. But like I said, I mean, I can't really think of too many times where the Saints actually like just fell behind and, like I said, facilitated a comeback. More times than not. And even with that, I say probably like 90. Like how many games? I want to say DA has coached maybe like 19 games with the New Orleans Saints. 19 or 20, something like that. And probably, like I said, a handful of games you can probably think of, maybe 2 or 3 where the Saints actually facilitated a comeback. So I don't know. Like I say, you kind of know what the team is going to look like, from week to week. Like if they start off hot, they probably going to win. They start off cold, they not going to win. I just got here. So sorry if you answered this question, but what do we need for the wild card? We need to beat the Atlanta Falcons. That's number 1. And, in order for to win the division, you need the Carolina Panthers to lose. The Carolina Panthers to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's how you win the division and you make the playoffs. How you make the playoffs as a 7 seed, you need to beat the Atlanta Falcons. You need the Seattle Seahawks to lose to the Cardinals, and you need the Bears to beat the Packers, which honestly, both are attainable. That's possible. That's possible. Cardinals could want to play inspired, but I we'll see. Let's see. How can you forget the Falcon game? It was the first game of the year. Jameis led the comeback. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, right? Yeah, because I was actually if that happened, then some heads gotta roll. Like you can't avoid that. Like there were 2 games to me I feel like that are a ground fire. Number 1, the Rams game. Beat the Rams. Now, no need for the Saints to beat the Rams, But the way that they lost, like unprepared, and then around and play Falcons when you 9 and lose, yeah, I can't. Is it? I didn't remember that Falcons game, and I was at that game. Doesn't apply because we both 1-1. However, Rule 2 and would have had a better percentage had they not let the score last game. TJ, please explain to the people about points being a tiebreaker the night and how that doesn't matter when it comes to the Saints making the playoff. Why are we talking about points? Why are we talking about points? I guess if we talking about ties or something like that, like let's just say, for example, if every, like two teams, you know what I'm saying, vying for a 7th spot or something like that, they got the same same number of wins and losses, same number of wins and losses in division, same wins and losses in conference, same wins and losses but that's just so freaking rare. Like that's like so rare that happens. Then you take into other things into account, but that's very, very rare. I don't know if that ever happened. TJ already read that one. It says, gotta thank TJ and Misdemeanor Crimes. Misdemeanor Crime, thank you very much for $5. Says, but TJ, if we make the playoffs, it's Dallas. I don't want to see that. Well, if they play Dallas, they still have a chance because Dallas can't really play on the road. If they win a division, you know what I'm saying? They got a chance. But I don't know, man. Stranger things have happened, in a postseason. And, sometimes it take an opportunity to you get there, but we'll see. Let's see exactly. Points have nothing to do with anything right now. TJ doesn't know the rules. I don't know what you're talking about. Like I said, at the end of the day, like, man, honestly, man, I really, honestly, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna just be honest with you. Like, I honestly don't care. Like, all that stuff is completely irrelevant right now. The New Orleans Saints have to beat the Atlanta Falcons. They got to play the Seattle. They need Seattle to lose to the Cardinals, and they need the Chicago Bears to knock off the Green Bay Packers. That's how you get the 7th seed. Then you got nothing matters if you don't beat the Atlanta Falcons. And in order for you to win the division, Tampa, has to lose to Carolina. It's just that plain and simple. I don't care what Dark Side is really talking about, dude. And honestly, I don't even understand why you even talking about this at all. Like, nobody cares. Like, there's only 3 scenarios here. You know what I'm saying? That really just, 2 scenarios when it comes to Seattle and, Seattle and Green Bay, and one against, Tampa. So at the end of the day, man, I honestly don't care. Like, really. Like, it's rather, sit back and enjoy the show or somebody block them. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because this is really getting on my freaking nerves now. Because the last couple episodes, we done been on, it just seemed like you just up in here trying to stir the pot, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody cares about that. We only care about the scenarios, that actually matter. Nobody cares about your freaking BCS Rain Man system that you're trying to talk about. So, man, it really, I'm over it now. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? I know more about what I'm talking about than you do. And if I didn't know what I'm talking about, why the hell are you here? That's my point. Why are you here? I must be pretty good at what I do if I don't know what I'm talking about and you still here. And probably because I'm probably the only show that actually reads what you're saying. Let's see, TJ, I'm no fan of Nick Wright, but he has the tier list and has the Saints in a category called even your fans don't want this, and playoffs also. So good luck with another year of DA. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, look, people don't like DA, and you do have some Saints fans out there that that don't want to see the Saints in the postseason. Like, they don't want to see him in the postseason. But look, you want the team to win. You want them to win. You want to see your team win. And I don't know. Like I said, I already said what I had to say when it comes to Dennis Allen. I already said it. I already mentioned it. I pretty much broke it down. Like, I don't feel like whatever you put together is going to be sustainable success. I don't look at the Saints 5 years from now having Dennis Allen as their head coach. I just think that you just prolonging the inevitable. Let's see. Attention, you are not allowed here. Like, I don't understand it, man. Like, just like I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I really do. Like, I don't have no problem with people from other teams like coming up, but it just seems like to me like this dude just only just comes on the show to, like, I don't know, troll or try to go back and forth. And maybe it's just the fact that we such an interactive show. He knows his stuff gonna get read or something. I don't know, man, but I don't care. Like, I don't care about nothing that you talking about, man. Like, nobody thinking about numbers and points and all that kind of stuff like this, the BCS. There are two scenarios that people are focused on. You know, in order for something like that to happen, they basically have to have identical records, AFC, NFC, conference, all that, in order for that to happen. You know, so I don't know, man. And if I don't know what I'm talking about, that's my only thing. If I don't know what I'm talking about, why are you here? Like, you know, I get that all the time. Like, people at the end of shows, people comment, "Oh, TJ, you don't know what you're talking about." But it'd be the same folks. Like, it'd be the same folks. Like, if I don't know what I'm talking about, like, how in the world are you still listening to a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about? It's rather I know what I'm talking about, or I'm just super entertaining. I don't know. I'm not trying to. If I feel like if I feel like I'm listening to a person who don't know what they're talking about, I'm not gonna really listen to what they're saying. You know, like I said, man, I try give people opportunity and stuff, man. But it just seems to me like, it's like he come here with some type of agenda, and I ain't got no time for that. Let's see. Bottom line, TJ, me and you tired of losing every year. This is not the who that way. Yeah, I mean, not just me and you, but everybody here, man. Everybody tired of losing. I'm frustrated too. I'm frustrated just like everybody here. I want to see this team get back to their winning ways and finding success. I just want them to do that before these teams in this division start to get good. Because to me, I just feel like when it comes to sustainable success, when you're looking around the NFC South, a lot of these teams like the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Bucks, I think they got some good cornerstone guys to get, to pave the way. And the Saints, man, they keep on trying to reinvent the wheel here. They're going to find themselves in the wheelhouse. Chosen says, Keen Arthur, you got to check out my latest diss track. Yeah, check out Chosen's latest diss track, man. It's pretty good stuff right there. Yeah, I mean, pretty good stuff, man. Shouts out to Chosen coming up with some heat again. Going into the boot again. Let's see. That goes for you, too, Black Fairchild. I don't even know who Black Fairchild is. I don't know from Black Fairchild to Morgan Fairchild. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I ain't really got no time for it. Like I said, man, we try to be interactive here. And like I said, I appreciate everybody that donates, but I don't let that be a deal breaker for me reading people's stuff. But I do think that some people try to take that stuff for granted, and I don't want to stop reading, stuff because I want to give everybody, their respect, because that's kind of what I built this show on, because I wanted people to have a voice. But, some people, they just kind of take that stuff for granted. Let's see, TJ, what would you do first as a GM, but you have to keep Derek Carr because of the cap situation? Well, okay, if I'm keeping Derek Carr already committed to that, Cameron, the first thing I would do is I would build the offensive line. I would draft in the first round. I would draft left tackle in the first round, and make sure I solidify that blind side. I would probably, I'll probably move on from Andrews Pete. And probably replace him with somebody that's in free agency or something like that to kind of solidify that left side. And Ryan Ramczyk, there's a possibility he might retire, so you might want to take a look at that too. I probably would do what Seattle did. Seattle in the first round, they drafted Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. This was last year's draft. And then they drafted Abraham Lucas for the right side in the second round out of Washington State. So I probably would use that. Now, I know it's not always the sexiest pick, drafting offensive linemen. We like skilled guys that are flashy, and guys that we feel like gonna give us some wow, look at that guy moments. But if we're talking about keeping Derek Carr, that would be it. That's number one. Number two, probably in a later round, I'm probably drafting myself a running back. That way, I'm trying to, have like a little bit of a three-headed monster thing going here. Trying to run the football, trying to establish the run a little bit, and make sure that I'm running the football effectively. That way, it can set up the play action for more explosive down the hill plays. That's probably what I'm doing, because I feel like what Derek Carr is versus what you thought he was is different. I feel like the Saints thought that Derek Carr could be that guy that could kind of be that cologne on the musty body, so to speak, the guy that can kind of, cover up for the imperfections of the offense, but he's not that guy. So I feel like you have to build some things around him, an adequate running game, a really sound defense, a good offensive line to give him protection, because he does have a little bit of happy feet, when he feels pressure around him. Even when, he has time to throw the football, because the clock has sped up in his head, he's making some of those quick decisions that he doesn't need to make. So those are some of the things that I would do if I know for a fact that I'm committed to him and I'm contractually obligated to him, and I don't feel like, and we're only talking about trying to commit to him, because it seems like to me, Cameron, you're talking about committing to Derek Carr. So those are the things I would do. Like I would solidify that offensive line and put, some stout young offensive linemen around him. All right, that's what you need to do, and also run the football. I got one more clip to play in regards to Mickey Loomis. We talked about Mickey Loomis' comments on Derek Carr, evaluating, and also the last clip we're going to play here is him talking about building the right core players. We talked about this, right? The Saints being one of the oldest teams in the league, and trying to get a good balance of young guys as well as wily veterans to help these young guys transition and become pros.
In the last 40 years, that very seldom is the Super Bowl winner the team that has the best roster. It's the best team, and you have the best team when you have great player leadership, and when you have guys that recognize, veteran players that recognize what's important and can keep their team on that path, keep them focused and on that path, doing the right things when no one's looking, preparing the right way each week. And it's just critical. I know that in the best teams that we've had over the years, we had great veteran leadership. In that 06 to 2012 run, it was Brees, and it was Vilma and Will Smith and Malcolm Jenkins and a number of guys that I'm not even naming. Jabari Greer comes to mind. So we just had guys that understood what the goal was, what the focus is, and how to keep our team and their position group in line and focused to that goal.
So Mickey Loomis is more focused on, building the right team. And I agree with that. Just because you got a bunch of, high contracts and notable names, that's not going to win you a Super Bowl. There was a couple years back where the Philadelphia Eagles had like a whole bunch of like guys that they signed in free agency. I remember they had Michael Vick, Vince Young, and and then they had like Nnamdi Asomugha and Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, and everybody was talking about like how much talent that they had. And then they're talking about they had a dream team, and I don't even think they made the playoffs, right? So it doesn't always matter like signing a bunch of guys. It's about signing the right guys, and that's what the Saints have been trying to do since 2016, when the locker room they just decided, man, enough is enough, and they start to let guys go because the locker room was becoming a little bit of a cancer. So I do agree with him on that also. But you also want to be able to understand and understand what guys can bring to the table and keeping the right guys. The biggest mistake that I've seen was the Saints getting rid of Trey Hendrickson, who is leading the NFL in sacks right now with 17. Like getting like letting go of Caden Ellis, who had 7.5 sacks. Now he's playing really, really well for the Atlanta Falcons. And now you have Zach Barnes showing you promise, and he's more than likely probably going to leave and get a contract. And he's probably in his new role going to be, beneficial to the next team that he's with. So I just think that sometimes it's about understanding that these young guys have something to offer and giving these guys opportunities to be able to show you that, what they can do. And I think that sometimes the Saints hold on to guys too long. Rather, it's the fact that those guys are mainstays. Rather, they're this, good, upstanding citizens. Fans love them, and I feel like the Saints kind of fall into that lifetime achievement award type thing where when a guy is giving you so much production over the years, you're forever indebted to them. So you keep them around, even though they're a little bit of a liability, and you have to, kind of overcompensate for what they're lacking in their older age as veterans. But, you got to be able to understand and evaluate the talent to make sure that you are, letting the talent go that maybe, you need to go in a different direction and keeping the ones that has promise. Like, Trey Hendrickson, what he had double-digit sacks on his way out, right? That should have told you right there that, you should have kept him. But instead, they allowed the Cincinnati Bengals to pay him, and now look at Trey Hendrickson, one of the best pass rushers in the league. So you got to be able to make the right decisions. I do agree that it's about having the right team because you don't want a bunch of guys in the locker room talking about what they can do, what should be done, and then all of a sudden then everybody in the locker room have a problem, and the next thing you know, your team is, on one team is on one side, another team is on another side, other team in the back. You don't want that, man. You want a cohesive unit because that's the true definition of a team. Let's see. I hope Sean and Mike T let the chopper ring about it all, but about Dennis Allen. Go full on Cat Williams on his ass after this miserable season is over. Look, I don't know what Marshon Lattimore is going to do. I really don't know. I'm hearing some things, people saying that they think he needs to be traded. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? Like that Marshon Lattimore is the greatest cornerback the New Orleans Saints has ever had. I don't care what anybody says. The OGs can bring up, Waymer and all them other cornerbacks from back in the day. I ain't never seen a New Orleans Saints cornerback lock down a side of the field and neutralize some of the best talent in all of football. It's almost like when he doesn't neutralize the best wide receiver on a respected team that the Saints are going up against, and you're shocked that he didn't. That tells you everything that you need to know about Marshon Lattimore. If you're shocked that, Justin Jefferson had a big day, this is Justin freaking Jefferson. If you're shocked that Devontae Adams had a big day, this is Devontae freaking Adams. That tells you everything you need to know about Marshon Lattimore. Plain and simple. But I wouldn't get rid of him. I wouldn't. If he's playing like that, I say keep him around. Because the Saints are good defensively, but they're even better defensively because of what he is as a corner. And I understand Paulson Adebo is playing well, and I understand that it seems like the light is coming on for him, but like Marshon Lattimore to me is a special player, and you'll be insane to let that man go. Just want y'all to remember Adebo younger and Alante. By the way, keep that in mind with the Sean situation. Look, I like Alante Taylor, but if the Saints decide to keep Paulson Adebo and put Alante Taylor on the other side, there's going to be a drop off, and I feel like it's going to be noticeable. I think both guys are good, but if you have Adebo on one side and Lattimore, it can become a no-fly zone in some cases. If Dennis Allen seen the podcast and he hit you up and said he'll give you a 30-minute interview, let me see, would you ask him? What would I ask him? What would I ask him? Well, I would ask him straight up, like, do you feel like the criticism is warranted by fans? The way that the team has been playing over the last 2 seasons. I would ask him, do you feel like, the up and down play, it plays, will play a, huge role in your future? Are you concerned about your future? Man, I would ask them these questions. Like, I'm serious. Like, I wouldn't shy away from these type of questions. Because I'm telling people, man, like, I'm for the people. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I want to ask people things that people want to know. You know, like, I'm not around here thing trying to tiptoe around the situation. Like, I don't care about positioning and all that kind of stuff, because I feel like what's going to get you where you need to be is you being true to yourself, straight up. So I mean, I would ask him those questions. Like, what can he do to me? You know what I'm saying? Hang up? You know, like, okay. Let's see. The only way to overcome the shortcomings of the offense is to chuck the ball upfield. Um, Not if a team playing cover two. Shoot, you gonna throw the ball or you got safety help over the top? Like, how that's gonna work out? Can't just throw the ball down. You can't just go bombs away almost every play. That doesn't work all the time. All guys gonna do is just sit back there, you know what I'm saying, and make sure that the ball don't fly over their heads. It's not always work. Like, it's sexy when it happens. You know what I'm saying? We all love a big explosive play down the field, but it's not always gonna happen. I'm gonna take a few more and then we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here, folks. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. It says the Saints need to gamble on a proven first round quarterback. We need that bad. Saints have lost out on generational talent at quarterback by picking safe in the first round. We can get proven O-line players in free agency. Well, look, I feel like with this, Mira, do the Saints need to get themselves a quarterback in the first round? In my opinion, yes. But am I mad if they don't get a quarterback in the first round, they get a left tackle? No. Would I be mad if they get a pass rush in the first round? No. Because here's the thing. I feel like if we get mad at if they pick anything other than a quarterback, it's just based on emotion. You know what I'm saying? It's because we want the Saints to do something that they haven't done since Archie Manning, and that's pick a quarterback in the first round. You know, that's what we wanted. You know what I'm saying? That's how we feel. I don't know what happened. The camera just went to sleep on me for some apparent reason. But all in all, you know what I'm saying? It really does, not matter, because there's so many different things that the New Orleans Saints need. There's so many things the Saints need. I don't know, man. The camera just automatically just went to sleep. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why I just went to sleep like that. I have no idea. Um, but yeah, I just think that it has everything to do with the fact that we just want to see the New Orleans Saints draft a quarterback. But I'm not mad at the offense. I'm not mad at the offensive lineman. I'm not mad at the pass rush. They need so many different things to solidify their future to I can't even get mad at it. But I do agree. You know what I'm saying? If Michael Penix is sitting there, you grab him. If Jaden Daniels sitting there, which I doubt, grab him. If Drake May is sitting there, grab him. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got a second round pick and JJ McCarthy is sitting there, grab him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I agree with that. But at the end of the day, this team had bigger fish to fry, and they can go from so many different angles. It's like, I can't get mad at whatever they go with. You know what I'm saying? So, I feel like if I'm getting mad and I'm throwing stuff, it's because I'm so emotionally invested in them drafting a quarterback. And I feel like, when it comes to that, I do agree with Mickey Loomis. Like, we can't we can't make decisions based on emotion like that. Like, we're emotional because we see the Saints have a 32-year-old quarterback that's leaving a lot to be desired based on how long he's been in the league. But I'm not mad if they draft themselves an offensive lineman. They need one. I'm not mad if they draft a pass rush. They need one. Lamar Jackson or Davenport, who would you rather? Of course, I wanted Lamar Jackson. I was mad at that at the beginning. I definitely was mad at that. Everybody thought they was going to get Lamar Jackson. I thought so. I thought they was going to get Lamar Jackson. I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? They ain't going to get. I was at Planet Fitness. I tell this story quite often here on the show. I was at Planet Fitness and I stopped like my set and went to a TV because the Saints were picking. Like, they jumped up And I'm like, oh my God, they about to get Lamar Jackson. All the talking heads at the desk thought the same thing. And here comes Marcus Davenport. Let's see. They possibly passed on them quarterbacks like they did Lamar Jackson. And it's gonna come back to haunt them too. Let's see. But if you're picking people like Davenport, Penning, Turner, why not? We could have grabbed Levis or Hooker. I agree with that. I agree with it. But hindsight is 2020. I hate to say it like that. Hindsight is 2020 because here's the thing. We talk about Trevor Penning now, but we all were passing around them videos of him at the Senior Bowl giving defensive tackles and defensive ends extra after the play. Oh, he has a mean streak. Oh, he tough. That's what the Saints need. They need a tough guy on the offensive line. Like we were singing his praises. Hindsight is 2020, man. Like we can't know what happens, at the end of the movie, and then, what I'm saying, now we talking about the movie sucked. Like, nah, we went into the movie with anticipation, and then at the end of the movie, when it didn't give us the results we wanted, we like, man, it sucks. Like everybody, like we're privy to the knowledge that we know now. We're prisoner of the moment, you know what I'm saying, for better or for worse. We know now, you know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't know Will Levis was going to, like be solid like that. And I still feel like he leaves a lot to be desired. Hendon Hooker hasn't taken a snap for the Lions yet. We don't know what type of quarterback he's going to be. So all of these things, like we know now. Like we can sit up here and talk about, Davenport. But what if Davenport would end up being what Trevor Penning is for the Bengals? We don't know. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we can't like just say, oh man, that was dumb. That was stupid. I mean, because we all were passing around footage. We all were getting ourselves excited about these decisions that they were making. We just know now that the decisions that they made didn't pan out. And now we're like, well, we should have did this, we should have did that. Well, if ifs was a fifth, we all would be drunk. So we gotta we gotta be careful with that. Penning was a gamble regardless. Yeah, it was a gamble. But what I'm saying is people weren't feeling that way. People weren't feeling that way like it was a gamble. People felt like the Saints were making the right decision because, like I said, they fell in love with the tape they were seeing being passed around. We all do that. You know what I'm saying? We all do it. I do it. You do it. Everybody does that. Jerry, keep a chopper with a red beam and a scope. Feelings, don't talk about feelings. Yeah, I mean, look, we all have feelings. We all have feelings and viewpoints about things, and we all get emotional, especially when it comes to things we're passionate about. And we're passionate about the New Orleans Saints. So, of course, when things don't pan out, we're upset. But, we got to be careful, man, because we know certain things now. So we can't just sit up here and just say why they did that. Like it's almost like you need a car and, you know what I'm saying, like, you drive this car around and stuff like that, and it seems like it works for you. You buy it, and then all of a sudden, you ride around with it a little bit, and it don't give you everything that you want. You have buyer's remorse. You know what I'm saying? At that particular point, it was everything to you. You know what I'm saying? Because of what you saw. But, when you have buyer's remorse, you look back and be like, man, that was crazy. But at the time, it felt like it was the best decision ever. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody that commented. Shouts out to everybody that tuned in. I ask that you hit the like button if you enjoyed the State of the Saints podcast. Previous episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Also, you can check out me on social media on X at TJAYJones8, Facebook.com, search Gumbo Pod Sports. You can check it out there. And in a couple of weeks, as the season winds down, I got a new podcast that's coming out. It's not going to be a sports-related podcast. It's mostly going to be dedicated to pop culture and life. That's going to be on the way pretty soon. I'll put a link down in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be starting the channel over there. Completely different podcast, completely different angle. just wanted to do something different, man. I enjoy doing sports, but I definitely want to kind of get back into like just a pop culture type podcast where I can kind of, sit back and people can see a different side. So I have more details on that later. And hopefully everybody can enjoy that. And I really do appreciate everyone's time. Really do appreciate it. And till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.